In the quiet village of Eldermore, nestled between ancient forests and rolling hills, the days passed with a gentle rhythm. The sun rose slowly, casting a golden light over the stone cottages and cobbled streets, where the faint sounds of a distant blacksmith and the soft clucking of chickens filled the air. Among the villagers lived a young man named Aldric. His hands were calloused from years of tending the fields, but his heart carried a quiet yearning for something beyond the daily toil. Every morning he would walk to the edge of the village, where the woods whispered secrets in the breeze, and sit beneath the sprawling branches of an old oak tree. Here Aldric found peace. The people of Eldermore lived simply, their lives entwined with the cycles of the earth. Each season brought its own tasks and celebrations. The planting in spring, the harvest in autumn, the long, cold winter nights, warmed by fires and stories. It was a life rooted in patience and hope. One cool morning, as a soft mist clung to the ground, Aldrich noticed something unusual. Near the path to the forest's edge lay a small bundle wrapped in faded cloth. Curious, he approached slowly, careful not to startle whatever or whoever might be inside. Unwrapping the cloth revealed a tiny bird, its wing bent awkwardly, eyes closed in pain. Without hesitation, Aldrich scooped the fragile creature into his hands. The bird's breathing was shallow, its body trembling. Gently he carried it home. Over the following days, Aldrich tended to the bird with quiet devotion. He crafted a small splint from twigs, wrapped it carefully around the wing, and fed the bird crumbs soaked in honey. As the village bustled around him, Aldrich's world became centered on the fragile life in his palms. Slowly, the bird began to heal. Its eyes fluttered open, bright and curious. It chirped softly, a melody that seemed to echo the gentle cadence of the village itself. As the bird regained strength, so too did Aldrich's heart swell with a new sense of purpose. Perhaps this small act of kindness was a sign, a reminder that even in the quietest corners of the world, miracles could happen. Days turned to weeks. The seasons shifted, leaves turning fiery red and gold. The bird, now strong enough to flutter short distances, became a companion to Aldrich's solitary moments. Together, they watched the sunset paint the sky in hues of amber and rose. One evening, as stars began to twinkle faintly above Eldermore, Aldrich stood beneath the oak once more. The bird perched on his shoulder, its soft feathers warm against his skin. He whispered, "The world is vast, little one, and someday, perhaps, we will see it together." The gentle night wrapped around the village like a comforting cloak, the sounds of crickets and the soft rustling of leaves lulling Aldrich into peaceful dreams. Days passed gently in Eldermore, each one melting softly into the next, like the slow drip of honey from a wooden spoon. Aldrich and his feathered friend moved through the rhythms of the village with quiet harmony, the sound of wheels turning in the distance, the muted laughter of children playing near the well, and the soft murmur of the wind weaving through the tall grasses. One morning, as the pale sun stretched its fingers over the horizon, Aldrich found himself wandering farther than usual, drawn by a faint, sweet scent that teased the air. It led him along a narrow, winding path where wildflowers bowed their heads and bees hummed lazily, heavy with nectar. The path opened to a small clearing, where a crystal-clear stream gurgled softly over smooth stones. The bird hopped from Aldrich's shoulder and fluttered down to drink from the cool water, its tiny tongue flicking out delicately. Aldrich knelt beside the stream, cupping his hands to drink, feeling the chill of the water seep into his skin. The peace of the moment settled around him like a warm shawl, the gentle rustling of leaves and distant song of a lark weaving into a quiet lullaby. From behind a cluster of elderberries, a figure stepped softly into the clearing, a woman cloaked in muted greens and browns, her eyes as calm and deep as the forest itself. She carried a basket woven from willow branches, filled with herbs and roots. "Good morrow," she said softly, her voice like a breeze brushing the leaves. "Good morrow," Aldric replied, rising slowly. The bird chirped a greeting from a low branch. The woman smiled, reaching into her basket and pulling out a sprig of lavender. "The forest is kind to those who listen," she said, offering the fragrant herb. "It heals wounds both seen and unseen." Aldric accepted the lavender, the scent calming his spirit like a whispered promise. "I am Aldric," he said. "And I am Merwin," she replied, "keeper of the woodland's secrets." They sat together by the stream, the moments stretching, like silk threads, unhurried and soft. Merwin spoke gently of ancient trees and forgotten paths, of the creatures that danced in shadows and the magic that lived in quiet things. Aldric listened, feeling the weight of the world slip away, replaced by a tender sense of belonging. As the sun climbed higher, Merwin stood, her basket lighter. "Return to your village, Aldric, but remember, the forest watches and waits, offering solace when the heart is heavy." With a final nod, she melted back into the greenery, leaving Aldric alone with the stream's gentle song. He looked up at the sky, the bird settling once more on his shoulder. Perhaps, he thought, there is more to this world than toil and stone. And as the breeze carried the scent of lavender through the trees, Aldric felt his eyelids grow heavy, the peace of the forest wrapping him in a gentle embrace. The days in Eldamore slipped by like soft shadows at dusk, each moment soaked in the warm glow of simple living. Aldric found himself wandering less now, content to sit beneath the old oak, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath his feet and the steady beat of the bird's soft wings upon his shoulder. The seasons shifted slowly. The greens of spring faded to the mellow golds and reds of autumn. Leaves drifted down like lazy whispers, carpeting the forest floor in a quilt of rustling silence. The crisp air smelled of damp earth and smoke from distant hearths, weaving a melody of home and hope. One evening, as twilight draped the village in a soft violet haze, a sound floated on the breeze, the faint melody of a flute, sweet and melancholy. Aldric rose from his seat and followed the music, his footsteps light on the mossy ground. The path wound deeper into the woods than he had ever ventured. Shadows lengthened and mingled with the glow of fireflies, their tiny lanterns flickering. Like scattered stars at last, he came upon a small glade where a figure sat on a fallen log, fingers dancing across the flute's carved wood. Her hair shimmered like spun silver, and her eyes held the calm of midnight lakes. She paused and smiled, eyes meeting his. "Welcome, traveler," she said, her voice as smooth as the notes she had just played. "I am Lyra, guardian of the forest song." Aldric felt a warmth rise in his chest, a silent understanding passing between them. Lyra set aside her flute and spoke softly of the balance between light and shadow, of the stories hidden in every leaf and stone. She told of the ancient oaks that whispered secrets to the moon, and the stars that guided lost souls home. Together, they sat beneath the vast canopy, sharing tales in silence, wrapped in the gentle music of the night as dawn's first light painted the sky. Lyra stood, her figure blending with the mist. "Remember, Aldric," she whispered, "the world listens to those who hear with their hearts." With that, she vanished into the morning fog, leaving Aldric alone but not lonely, the echo of her song lingering in the quiet woods. The days grew shorter, the air colder, and the village prepared for the coming winter. Fires were lit early, and smoke curled like lazy serpents into the gray sky. Aldric spent long hours mending his worn boots, stitching leather with careful hands, the steady rhythm soothing his thoughts. The bird, now fully healed, nestled in the warmth of his cloak, a living ember against the chill. Winter nights were long and filled with stories. Villagers gathered around hearths, their faces glowing in the flickering light as elders recounted legends of brave knights, wise women, and enchanted forests. One such night, Aldric listened to a tale of a hidden glen where the earth sang beneath. The snow and those who found it were granted dreams of hope and healing. The story planted a seed deep within his heart, a gentle yearning for discovery that whispered even in the silence. The harshness of winter gradually softened as the first hints of spring whispered through the brittle branches. Aldric could feel the earth awakening beneath his feet, the promise of renewal carried on the breeze. The bird chirped cheerfully, its songs weaving through the morning mist like a delicate thread of hope. That one morning, Aldric found himself drawn once more to the edge of the forest. The trees, still bare, cast long shadows on the damp earth, where tiny green shoots struggled toward the light. He knelt, brushing his fingers gently over the fragile leaves, marveling at their resilience. Nearby, the soft bubbling of a brook invited him closer. He settled beside the water, watching the sunlight dance on the ripples as the bird hopped from stone to stone. The air was filled with the scent of damp moss and fresh beginnings. A rustling startled him, and from behind a cluster of budding bush emerged an elderly man. His beard was as white as snow, and his eyes twinkled with the wisdom of countless seasons. He carried a wooden staff, worn smooth by time and travel. "Good day, young one," the man greeted, his voice as gentle as the breeze. "The forest welcomes those who respect its patience." Aldric nodded respectfully. "I am Aldric. I tend to the land and its creatures as best.